Well, I'm excited to talk to all of you. I feel like by missing the classes yesterday, it really affected me. I felt, gosh, I haven't seen anybody, I haven't talked to anybody. But I wanted to share some personal aspects of things. I've been in a monastery for 20 plus years, as you know, and I'm traveling right now really for the first time here in Rome. I am for 10 days. And it really is just for my own, because I got invited to do that series of lectures in Zurich. And I figured, all that investment for coming halfway around the world, I took some time to myself here, and I'm trying to work on a book for y'all, maybe not for y'all, maybe for whoever wants to pick up something like that. But it's really the first time that I've been exposed again to this level of just free leisure, really. With no rules and no bedtimes and no wake-up times and no shrine times and all of that. And it's been nice because it's made my practice very rich. Actually, I've experienced that for this whole year in Colorado. Without the rules, when you find out who you really are, what do you do when you have a lot of free time? Are you still spiritual? Are you still interested in the divine? Are you still disciplined? And part of the reason that I was interested in this time in Colorado, away from being cloistered in a monastery, was that after 20 years in the monastery, I wasn't sure who I was. As a person, you just fall so much into the regimen of the daily routine. And I started wondering, like, would I do any of this if I didn't have to, or if it wasn't just part of my habit and part of my day? And it's been a delight in the year in Colorado to find out that, oh my gosh, look, I still do my practice. I still get up early, I still go to bed on time. I haven't done anything and haven't really wanted to do anything just purely for entertainment or pleasure in that sense. I think that cycle, by the grace of Mother, has broken. And it's wonderful to see that there is somewhere inside me this sincere seeker who really does want to know, and with all of this practice behind me, it's carrying me in a beautiful way. I find such a joy in being, such a joy in life, and here I am in Rome, and I'm not really going to do any sightseeing. I get up in the morning, I go to the cafe and have a cup of coffee and a little whatnot from the counter, and do my writing. And am finding just such a joy of the experience of being able to just see people and see a different place like this. And in my practice, which is really what I wanted to talk about, because who cares about all that other stuff, but in my practice, I feel like even in the last 2 months, things have revolutionized inside. Just by this practice. It started with this idea of trying to figure out what does it mean when Sri Ramakrishna says, "I'm not the body and I'm not the mind." I've heard that, and I've been telling myself that for 20 years, but it was very automatic. I'm not the body. Okay, I didn't really couldn't have really said how that affected me. And so I don't know, a few months ago, I realized that I didn't know what that meant, and I really began to think about it, and I was thinking, well, how can I create an experiment, which, if you know me, that's sort of my thing, because I really don't want a religion based on a belief system, but based on a a series of ethics and a right and wrong, acceptable, not acceptable. Not me, not interested. If God is real, which at this point in my life I have no doubt in that at all, simply because I couldn't be where I am if that wasn't true. And it's a very different idea of God. It's not anthropomorphic, it's not separate from anything, let alone separate from me. And so what I started doing was assigning things that belong to the body, and things that belong to the mind. And instead of using the word I, like, oh, I'm so tired, I remember I'm not tired. I'm not the body is tired, Or when I wake up in the morning and I'm kind of in a melancholy state, or I feel like, oh, I'm feeling so depressed today, I don't use that I. I'm like, oh, the mind, that's a quality of mind, is depressed. And I find that all of the desires that arise in us always arise from either body or mind, which is why we don't know that we're not body or mind, because that inner self is tranquil. The inner self is at peace. The inner self does not have the qualities of the mind and does not have the qualities of the body. And so it gets no attention. That's part of the practice of silence, of meditation, is going in and getting silent enough to realize there is a third component to yourself, this self, this inner being, and that it is always at peace, and it is always quiet, and it is always content, and desires never arise from it. And when you find that aspect, when you discover that aspect, I call it the shrine, and I place it here in the heart because the sages, when they talk about it, talk about the heart in that way. And so when you discover that space inside that is separate from body and mind, and when you do this practice that I've been doing in the last few months, it becomes crystal clear, because you stop just casually using language that is confusing, the language of delusion, where anytime you talk about anything, whether body, mind, or self, soul, you use the word I, and it all gets jumbled. And so that's what gives our desires so much power, is that we think it's the I that wants and the I that needs, when it's always either body or mind. It's never self. And just using the right language for that, making sure that I assign the desires to the right component of this experience of being, has helped to sort that out so that I know what I mean when I say I now. I have a reference, which is probably a problem. At some point that's going to have to be discarded. It's the nature of this whole exercise. One of the beautiful windows to reality we get is that exercise of just diminishing a separate experience, really trying to have an experience with no experience. I like to talk it about knowing who you are when nothing is telling you, not your thoughts, not the body, not your experiences, not your memories, not your hopes for the future, but in that silence, which has taken me, let me just say it that way, has taken me years and years and years to find and develop and to cultivate, or to return to is probably more of an accurate way of saying it. This time here on my big quote vacation, being here in Rome, and just being out of my pond, out of my comfort zone, and to find that that's impossible. That these years of spiritual life, these years of monastic ideal and careful work, has created a home within me, a being that I find I carry with me, and I'm having a very different experience of life because I can remember traveling. I used to travel a ton before I joined the monastery. It was one of my passions, actually. And now that I'm doing it really for the first time since having made that decision, it's such a different experience. There used to always be this stress of expectation, like, oh my God, I'm in Rome, I better get to the Colosseum, I better visit everything, and I can't have a moment. And I'm finding no need for any of that. I'm just enjoying anywhere you sit down in Rome, you're in Rome. And what a beautiful thing. Look at this area around me, these shutters and that wonderful stone wall and the stucco. And on the other side of me, I've got an old style apartment building, and everybody's laundry's hanging off the back. And this morning I opened up the shutters, which was a fun experience. I opened up my shutters, and I just wanted to sing like they do in the musicals. When the shutters opened. And there was a woman, a very old woman, by the way, across the street, across the alley here actually, who was using a pulley line to put out her laundry. And I just almost yelled out good morning to her, but they're much more reserved here. I didn't feel like maybe she was ready for that. So I just went back to my silent room. But, I share that. I don't know why. I hope it's inspiring, because it's inspiring to me. to see that this practice of mine has opened a heart and opened my life and removed my boundaries and taken away a significant level of stress and expectation, and definitely removed a large level of need that I was utterly enslaved to in my life. And if you are curious about whether it's worth doing something like a meditation or spiritual practice or investigating these truths, I encourage you, take it by the horns. It's not about a heaven later. It's not about a reward later. It's not about making some guy in the sky happy. It's really just about learning what enjoyment really is. And like Vivekananda says, to be able to enjoy this world without getting caught in it, without becoming enslaved in it by having all sorts of, wants and aversions and expectations and things that just make you think you're bored by sitting still. If you're bored, you have no inner life. The inner life is never boring. The inner life is always this marvelous experience of bliss, this almost a body heat of comfort. And it's taken a long time for that to develop. And I didn't know that was there when I started this. It really was about pleasing a divine or, fixing a sense of lack in myself. And that's just disappeared. Spiritual life is the relationship with the divine. And from all of the lectures I've given, that divine is this moment. And so your experience of the moment, when there's nothing to do and nothing to think, that's what your relationship with God really is. And to experience the qualities of the divine in the silence of the moment is the most blissful thing that life can possibly give to us. And in that moment of that bliss and joy, that's why you're loving, because that loving self inside is no longer distracted from itself, no longer unaware of itself. And that patient part of yourself, which is yourself, is no longer challenged by being confused with an angry or disheveled mind. So do your practice. The greatest reward of it is not after you die. The greatest reward of it is to be able to fully embrace this moment as it is, without any resistance, without any need, without any projection, without the anxiety of possible futures, without the regrets of imagined pasts, but just a pure awareness that you are part of something beautiful. And that beauty is something that's experienceable when there's nothing in the senses to point it out. So I encourage you to spend some time alone with the beloved within you. Don't imagine him, her, that elsewhere. Experience it. Religion is not belief. Religion is not for after death. It's not a response to fear about what's going to happen to something sometime. Religion is really just life. You could actually throw that word away and just talk about life itself. Learn to enjoy it without getting caught in it. Learn to be able to sit down anywhere that you are and feel utterly at home. Learn to look at any stranger and be able to see that same stillness in them, that same potential of beauty in them that you find within your own self. It's my wish and my hope for everyone. I have found such a joy, and I so encourage you to search for it in any way that you like, or give up your search and just realize it has always been yours. The mind and body have just been so confused with your sense of being that their needs have been mistaken for your needs and have driven you to the point of exhaustion, perhaps, and if not yet, ultimately it will. Enjoy not the day. Enjoy your now. And be blessed.